Welcome all, Plan Stage Weekly, September 28th. So I realized, and we can change this, we can skip this if I just missed it during one of the Plan Weeklies, but we've brought on a few new people to the team, and I don't think we ever did the formal introductions. So I added it to the team meeting today. I'm not sure if they're all here, but Amanda, are you here? Yes, you are.
I'm
Amanda.
here.
All right. Wanna
Hey,
introduce
everybody.
yourself to the team?
Sure. So I'm Amanda Rueda. We'll be at GitLab 4 years this Saturday. Coming from the product intelligence team and fulfillment before that. Why did I decide to join Plan? I'm a big dog fooder, and I'm like uber organized, or I'd like to be. And I really want to make to improve what we already have for both the day-to-day of the product person, but also like cross-functional projects. I've been on several here, and they're really hard to organize using GitLab. And I have like this lifelong dream to keep people out of Sheets and Google Docs. So that's basically why I was really attracted to the role. Where am I located? I'm in San Miguel de Allende, which is in central Mexico. I'm about 4 hours northwest of Mexico City. And what I like to do for fun, I don't really do a lot of things for fun. I have 2 boys, 6 and 11. And so I'm usually just doing stuff with them, or cooking, or chilling with my chickens. And that's it. Matthew?
Yeah. Sorry, it's a little early in Seattle here. So yeah, thank you for the brief intro. I just jumped on, so I don't know if anyone introduced me at all, but yeah, so I joined Plan on the 19th. It seemed like a really great opportunity to improve requirements management specifically, and I've been digging through a lot of the tickets, especially from internal folks, and there's so many small improvements that can be made to make the user experience better. So it seems like a really good chance to improve something about the product that maybe just a few customers are using so far, but could be used much broader. So it's been exciting to have several salespeople reach out already to inquire about what we're doing and to begin digging into how we can improve requirements and quality and service desk as well. I'm located in Seattle. I am originally from Montana, a super rural small town. And outside of work, I love to run. I love to cook. I was talking to a couple of people yesterday, so I like to bake. I have a pyometry book that I've been digging into. That's super fun. And then in the winters, I like to ski. So you might see me on some meetings at like a ski lodge or a cabin. But yeah, that's me.
Very jealous when those pictures come through, I think. Matthew, I will be. So I'm Dan Mitzi Harris. I've been at GitLab since January. Before being in Certify, I was in Manage, working on the import and optimize groups, and decided to join Plan for a couple of different reasons. But one of the most exciting ones is the overlap between all of the different groups in Plan would allow me to work really closely with other product designers. So that's something that's really exciting for me. I'm located in Barry Island in South Wales, which is part of the UK, right on the coast, about 10 minutes walk from 4 different beaches. It's lovely. And similar to Amanda, I have small children, which means there is no outside of work other than them. I've got a 4-year-old and an 18-month-old. So lots of time is spent with them. and in the couple of hours that I can find to myself, play lots of video games, addicted to my Switch. So that's me.
Awesome. Well, thanks all, and welcome to the plan team. Okay, on the other side of things, I think everyone has seen the announcement that Rajat is leaving the team for another opportunity. Last day is this Friday. I don't think Rajat is here. It's pretty late out there. Yeah, he's not. But yeah, we'll miss Rajat. It's great working with him, with you, Rajat, over the past 4 years now. But again, excited for his next opportunity. If you have any questions on anything he's working on, either ask John, Yarka, Kushal, or myself. All right, Natalia, I think I saw you are here.
I am still on the call. I will leave literally in 2 minutes. So super quickly, we have architecture blueprint merged for work items. It's very basic as for now, very high level. And I would be happy if you have something to add to the blueprint. And I believe almost everyone has something to add to it. Just keep in mind, it should be architectural blueprint. So not an implementation detail, but high level architecture. I plan to extend it a little bit with the front-end architecture, how we do things on the front-end for work items. And it would be great to see something from the backend too. No rush, but if you have time and inspiration, please do contribute. And Gabe is not on the call, so back to Donald.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Talia. All right. Gabe says there is a renewed interest in dogfooding service desks internally, as well as making it more robust to support additional ITSM use cases. GitLab, the company, provided a list of requirements. They are deciding right now whether to buy an external ITSM solution or make an investment to build the necessary capabilities into our product. There's a chance we may get some funding to hire a vendor to accelerate in the near term. What we're being asked now is to provide a high-level summary of how far we think we can get within a 12-month period of time. What's the best way to approach this? And then we've got a couple links here that he included. And then Alexander, looks like you want to vocalize your comment?
Yeah, I had some questions basically by briefly looking at the issue, and given his question is what was the best way to kind of approach it. My question is, how does that align with whatever we're doing in work items? Because that is what he seemed to be suggesting by him. I mean Gabe. So yeah, the question was how much overlap there is with work items, and do actually the priorities for that interest align with the priorities of the work items? Because like I have a feeling that in plan we cover a lot of stuff and then we jump from one thing to another. So yeah, if the priorities align with what we're doing in work items, we can slightly maybe readjust to what we want to do, or we can more easily guide the IT help team. They may want to implement something in lines with what we do want to do with work items and so on.
Cool.
Do we want to do a role kind of reading, or do we leave it for everyone to read it out?
Yeah, I think we can probably just have everyone read through that, but just briefly looking through it, it looks like for the most part, there is a lot of overlap. But I think before we even talk about moving that stuff over to work items, like we want to see if there's a way to essentially build it before it's a work item. But yeah, I think everyone can just read through your and Gabe's back and forth there.
Yeah, as another comment to that is like, I personally don't have a great understanding of what are exactly the requirements, and does it make sense to stuff even more things into work items, or is it separate enough to really kind of use the same idea, use the same maybe concept structures, maybe a lot of the code, but have it into a different data storage, or how much interaction is there between work items as we currently see them and the IT stuff of managing a lot of those configuration management dependencies and so on and so forth. Like, why are not issues enough to track down? Do we really need something separate? How much of that separate thing is there? Is it really only about custom fields? Is it something different? Like there are, yeah, I didn't go through everything. So probably a good idea for me would be to just work for everyone, just to go and see what's different from what we have, and how much effort we're like, how much we should deviate, or what extra we need on top. Because like, even if we talk only about custom fields, I don't think that's something that we'll have in near term. I think we have a lot of foundational work that needs to be done before we can even start to add custom fields per se.
Just a quick note too, that service desk was recently realigned to certify. And in terms of prioritization, I saw Dan was just putting it in there. It was relatively small in terms of the time commitment we were thinking for upcoming planning. So we were hoping to focus primarily on requirements over service desk. But this is a good discussion item. I think I can chat with Melissa. I'm so new to the team that I think it would be really valuable to get her opinion on it. And I know Gabe's not on here, but I could touch base with him as well to see sort of his thoughts around this.
Yeah, and that's kind of been the question around service desk for a bit, is that there's been kind of this desire to prioritize it, but there hasn't been a whole lot of commitment internally to actually putting effort towards improving it. So I don't know if just with what Gabe is saying here on kind of the renewed interest in internally using it, if that means we're increasing the priority of it as an organization, or if it just, yeah, I'm not sure what the exact what that exactly means as far as what we want to commit to it. So I think, yeah, that's a good idea to meet up with Melissa and kind of on the product side, figure that stuff out before we decide to either focus on it internally or bring on a third party to help us with that, or not. Okay. We want to move on to the next point. I'm not sure who put this on there. Was it Gabe or someone else?
I think it was Nick with the velocity thing.
Oh yeah, sorry, that would have been me. Sure. So this is like literally, I was like working on this just before this, but I figure we can take a quick look at some of what we're thinking. Right now, the goal is just to get some ideas out there to take back to customers related to velocity and volatility. So this is basically an extension of the cadences and iterations functionality, kind of allowing teams to better understand the typical progression of the team. So how many like points do you typically do on average? And trying to build some of these metrics in. We've got some like customers that have basically sketched out different things that they want, different metrics. We're starting relatively small with just more or less velocity and volatility. But I think part of what we're looking to gain a better understanding of as well is like, do those two alone give you enough value out of the gate? And then we can, can we build in some of those more business oriented metrics down the line? Different ways to present it and things like that. So kind of the biggest potential change here is that your cadences page, which today is a blend of cadences and iterations, could actually become a driver into iteration or into like a detail page that doesn't exist today. But at a minimum, basically adding in the metrics here. Velocity is typically just an integer. Volatility is typically a %, sometimes with a standard deviation, which would just be a number. And then potentially some sense of completion for the current iteration, if there is one. And then driving into a detail page. So this is a detail page for cadence. So this doesn't exist today. So this would be like all sort of net new, where you can see your velocity. And then this is sort of the roll up of that velocity. So you're typically looking at like, what did you plan? What did you actually do? How does that sort of change over time? And you'd have basically, it's like a couple things to add here would be like the velocity line, maybe an average trailing velocity. So just giving you a little bit of a sense of like, where does this number come from? How is this sort of change over time? Ideally, as your team matures, that line gets pretty flat, maybe with a few changes over holidays and things like that. And then a view of your iterations within this cadence, so you can kind of see what's coming up. And then I think the more fun part of this is, actually maybe building in a board. So you're managing your iterations within this cadence. This is something that teams can do in other products today, is basically like just quickly get to this, like, I want to move this from this to that, while seeing some of the velocity metrics. So you can kind of see, I think the sprint will be like, this sprint, like, let me kind of plan accordingly. Today, you'd kind of have to jump around a little bit to do this. Again, these are just ideas that we're kind of testing, but kind of showing some of the ideas here. And the iteration side, iteration report changing only a little bit, building in the velocity metrics, and maybe some cleanup of the presentation as a opportunity if we're touching this, and then again building in potentially some of the boards and things like that. Something like composition is just like a different sort of way to analyze the iteration that seems interesting and kind of aligned to some of what we're doing in GitLab. So being able to break down your iteration by like a type scope label or something like that, so you can kind of see, and then maybe down the road building in targets and averages and things like that. And then the last thing we're kind of exploring here is, just hide this for a second, just some stuff in the board view itself. So I'm in a board scoped to a iteration. So this could either be scoped to like current iteration for a cadence, where it's going to automatically pick the iteration, or to a single specific iteration, just whatever gives you that single iteration, and then kind of pulling in some of those metrics into the board view with like an extended sort of preview, so that, again, if this is kind of your workspace for managing your iteration, you can kind of see where are you at in relation to your velocity, and how does that sort of compare to things over time, and then you can kind of track your progression as you work through that sprint. Similarly, you could do this at the cadence level. So if you scope this to a single cadence, you get that same sort of view where you can see, your next 5 iterations or however many you have upcoming. And then here you could actually put like the velocity in here, similar to like a whip limit, where you could kind of see how far away are you, like how here you've got 18, you could add maybe a bug or something like that. And obviously if you can move stuff to your later iterations and spread it out, and then similar, like this could grow over time as we add some of these other analytics, but starting with basically volatility and velocity, and then trying to track some sense of like planned versus completed for anything that's in progress, and trying to kind of keep those metrics like similar but different, so that we're not blending too much of the planning stuff like velocity and then the completion, which is a little bit different in focus. This will probably change a little bit by the next time you see it, but yeah, that's kind of the idea of what we're testing out.
I have so many comments and questions. First, I couldn't love any of this more. It's so great. A lot of my questions are going to be, because I don't know, I haven't been here. Who owns these features? Who would build these? Which team?
As iterations, this would be what are we called now? Team planning, project management.
Project management?
Still project management.
Okay. All right, I'm jealous. Second, love the composition feature. I think that's amazing. It would be really cool if you aren't already, but including health score. A quick view to see by the health score, and then like a drill down eventually into those issues would be really cool. Really the preview of the board, like being on the board and having that quick snapshot of what's going on in that iteration just gives me so much information at a glance. Like I could see all of my issue level detail that I need, and then my quick snapshot. Like I just love that. Okay, 2 questions that I have 0 context, so I apologize. First, have we considered a feature for capacity tracking at all? Because that would be so lovely to merge into this, because seeing that planned number right next to the capacity number, right, would be really powerful.
I see Gabe's not on the call. I know that's something that's out there, but it's not, I don't think it's something that we are working on yet. But I think Gabe and I were talking about this yesterday. Like that would be kind of like the next iteration. Like this is velocity is like in some ways a stopgap to capacity. It's just sort of flattening your capacity out to a single like team level metric, as opposed to looking at like something individual. One thing we talked about was if you could at that team level basically just say for this iteration we're at like 90% capacity, which I think he has a more complicated way to describe the calculation, but I think it basically just took this velocity and like tried to calculate what 90% of that would be, using some metrics around that particular team and what they typically do. So that would be like the lightweight way to do it, and then the more complicated way that we could explore in the future would be like this team member is out, and what does that team member typically contribute towards this velocity.
Makes sense. Okay, cool. And then my last question is, I'm sorry, I don't know the background. Is there a plan to merge the milestone and iteration experiences into a single experience, or do we plan to always have those separate?
I don't know that there's a plan. It is something we've talked about. I think Melissa and I were talking about this the other day. Like you could basically create like an inheritance structure of time boxes, right? Where like, you just have iterations that are like subordinate to iterations, and one of those basically acts as a milestone, one of those acts as an iteration. I don't think there's anything kind of defined or planned in that space at the moment. But yeah, I think it's something that we would like to look at some point.
Cool, thank you. Really great stuff.
Thank you.
Cool. Thanks, Nick. Thanks for great questions, Amanda. All right, anyone have anything else they want to talk about? All right, I'm going to stop the recording.